they're in big trouble, folks. It comes with a clear challenge: solidifying the startup 3-on-3 in an increasingly crowded women's basketball landscape.
Monday, January 6, 2025 was already poised to be one of the most tumultuous days in American sports, as the NFL's so-called Black Monday unfolded with dramatic intensity, seeing 6 head coaches dismissed within just a few hours.
Quote, "I don't want to speak too much of what's going on behind the scenes, but I've made it very clear we're open to the ecosystem. I'm sure you are."
Every leading sports network was consumed with urgent updates, live analysis panels, and continuous speculation as teams scrambled to redefine their paths forward.
What you look at right now is there's a collaboration that's going on in NBA Europe. That was not a formal partnership before. As long as you can look at that space in an innovative lens.
Meanwhile, almost unnoticed, another professional sports league quietly kicked off what could turn out to be its most pivotal season to date.
He's literally bringing up other examples of collaboration.
Or perhaps its final one. As the football world unraveled, Unrivaled, the venture-funded 3-on-3 women's basketball league, began its second season at noon on a Monday afternoon on True TV. With schools in session nationwide and offices fully operational, the sports media was entirely absorbed by NFL turmoil, leaving the majority of fans completely unaware that Unrivaled was even holding a game that day.
That may be true, but there's a belief within WNBA circles that the league is still at least one collective bargaining agreement away from being able to offer salaries that warrant exclusivity.
Then came a moment that sent shockwaves through the business side of women's basketball. Unrivaled president Alex Bazel publicly acknowledged something that would have been unimaginable just a year ago. The league might actually depend on the WNBA to survive. This wasn't conjecture, and it wasn't social media gossip. It was an official statement straight from the front office.
Coming out and talking about why the WNBA was created. It was created as a league opposite to the NBA.
Bazel made it clear that every possibility was on the table when it came to collaborating with the WNBA.
So people would have basketball to watch when the NBA wasn't playing. This league is in a lot of trouble.
For those versed in corporate jargon, that line came across as a warning cloaked in the guise of optimism.
But I'm guessing the ratings for those two games are going to be sub 100,000 viewers. Is that a success?
The timing made the challenge even harsher. Unrivaled wasn't competing with WNBA preseason coverage or college basketball. It was debuting right alongside the anniversary of WWE's Raw premiere on Netflix, a globally hyped event backed by weeks of promotion.
Is what it is. I mean, I think Project B is going to stomp this league right out of existence.
At the same time, the NFL coaching carousel was dominating every sports broadcast across the nation. This wasn't an accident of a crowded schedule. It was a league prioritizing the fulfillment of broadcast contracts over maximizing attention, and that distinction is critical. A subtle detail soon revealed just how precarious the situation had become. Unrivaled announced an arena capacity increase, not by 1,500 seats, not even by thousands, but by a mere 150. When a professional league celebrates adding just 150 seats, it's not signaling growth. It's managing decline in slow motion, recalibrating expectations while hoping no one notices. To grasp how Unrivaled ended up here, you have to rewind to the launch. On paper, the league started with genuine momentum, securing a Series B investment valuing the venture at roughly $340 million, serious capital betting on exponential future expansion. They marketed themselves as the ultimate off-season destination for elite women's basketball talent. Miami, high production quality, brief seasons, six-figure paydays for a few months of work. The pitch was simple, clear, and enticing. Play 3-on-3 basketball, stay sharp, earn substantial money, skip overseas travel, and preserve your body for the WNBA season. Credibility was baked in, with Nphisa Collier and Breanna Stewart, two of the most respected figures in the sport, as co-founders, lending legitimacy, trust, and attention. Yet an issue surfaced almost immediately, one no marketing campaign could fix. At the core, basketball players simply want to play basketball. Real basketball, full court, 5-on-5, not a condensed version crafted for television pacing in smaller arenas, is what top players want, and the biggest star in women's basketball made that clear without ever naming Unrivaled. Caitlin Clark completely passed on the league, and she didn't just decline quietly. She publicly explained that her game doesn't translate to 3-on-3 play. When a league's entire model depends on star-driven viewership, and the sport's most prominent player opts out, the problem isn't timing or branding, it's structural. And Clark wasn't the only absence. Aya Wilson, the face of the Las Vegas Aces and one of the most dominant athletes globally, didn't participate. Angel Reese, whose rivalry with Clark fueled enormous fan interest, stayed away as well. Sabrina Ionescu, one of the league's most marketable stars, was also absent. Unrivaled launched its second season without the 5 most recognizable names in women's basketball, a devastating blow for any league, particularly one that earned roughly $27 million in revenue during its first season while holding a $340 million valuation. That growth math only works if momentum accelerates sharply, because investors have no patience for stagnation. But how can a league project explosive growth when its stars are resting, skipping the format, or dedicating themselves elsewhere? That brings us to the real threat quietly driving Unrivaled's leadership toward the WNBA, Project B. Project B is a rumored 5-on-5 traveling women's basketball league set to launch by this time next year. It hasn't announced a broadcast partner, released a schedule, or played a single game, yet it is already shifting the landscape. That alone highlights how critical the situation has become. Despite existing only on paper, Project B has reportedly secured commitments from established stars, Alyssa Thomas and Jewel Lloyd, both active in Unrivaled's second season, have publicly aligned themselves with a league that doesn't yet exist. That is not typical industry behavior, and it's not leverage, it's a warning. This isn't traditional competition. It's an exodus in motion. When players publicly pledge themselves to a future venture instead of focusing on the league paying them now, it signals a lack of confidence no marketing campaign can remedy. When your own athletes commit to a rival that hasn't even launched, you're no longer fighting for market share, you're fighting for survival, and that distinction drives decisions strength never would. Project B holds one advantage Unrivaled cannot replicate. It's built around full-court, 5-on-5 basketball. No modified rules, no condensed formats, no compromises for smaller arenas or TV windows. It's the game players grew up with and fans instinctively recognize. For elite athletes, that matters more than paychecks or production value, allowing rhythm, spacing, chemistry, and legacy, all things 3-on-3, no matter how slickly produced, cannot fully deliver. And then consider what Unrivaled president Alex Bazel actually said: language like this is rarely accidental. Speaking to Front Office Sports, he remarked, "I don't want to speak too much to what's going on behind the scenes, but I've made it very clear we're open to the ecosystem, whatever that looks like for us. Nothing is off the table." That is not the tone of a league negotiating from strength or projecting confidence. It is a statement teetering on vulnerability. "Nothing is off the table" is the kind of phrase executives use when they're searching for options, not when they hold them. Bazel even invoked NBA Europe as an example, highlighting historical cases where leagues survived by integrating with larger ecosystems rather than going it alone. That comparison is revealing. He isn't discussing expansion. He's discussing preservation. From a business perspective, it signals a shift from bold ambition to damage control. Unrivaled is no longer presenting itself as the future of women's basketball. It's positioning as a component of someone else's future, trying to stay relevant by proving useful. And when a league publicly frames itself that way, the market takes notice. Players notice, investors notice, partners notice. Suddenly, the conversation isn't about growth. It's about how much runway remains before critical decisions become unavoidable. What makes this particularly noteworthy is that Unrivaled had approached the WNBA early in its existence, pitching a partnership, a proposal the league declined, which made sense at the time, since why help develop a competing off-season product that could drain player focus and energy? But the landscape has shifted. Now the WNBA is negotiating a new collective bargaining agreement. There is serious conversation about exclusivity clauses that could restrict or even prevent players from participating in outside leagues during the offseason. Under the current CBA, those clauses aren't enforceable, as the league hasn't yet reached a point where it can offer salaries that justify exclusivity, but the direction is unmistakable and it's coming. That places Unrivaled in a nearly impossible position. They cannot outcompete Project B on the product itself. Full court, 5-on-5 basketball will always appeal more to players than 3-on-3. They cannot consistently secure the biggest stars, who are either resting, protecting their bodies, or weighing which opportunities offer the best long-term benefits. And hovering over everything is the looming reality that off-season leagues could eventually be contractually restricted, which is existential. Given these pressures, the only viable path forward is integration, becoming part of the WNBA ecosystem rather than positioning as a competitor. A sanctioned developmental league, a minor league-style system, a formal off-season partner with roster regulations and salary exceptions. These are the key phrases that reveal what "nothing is off the table" really means in practice. This isn't about bold innovation. It's survival language. It signals that Unrivaled is willing to accept nearly any structure, limitation, or rebranding that keeps the league operating and maintains some degree of relevance. Now consider the optics of that season opener. Because in a young league, perception matters as much as numbers. The venue, which barely holds just over 1,000 fans, had noticeable empty seats, not a cavernous arena where gaps could be disguised. Every vacant chair was obvious. Social media engagement struggled to cut through the surrounding noise, and the excitement that once felt fresh and compelling seemed muted. The energy that once defined Unrivaled's debut season was noticeably muted, and Front Office Sports opened its coverage with a line that should alarm every investor tied to the league. The novelty of the inaugural season is gone. That's a harsh reality for a league with only one season under its belt, since novelty was meant to bridge the gap to sustainability. Without it, there's no buffer, no patience, and no margin for error. Launching the second season at noon on a Monday, directly against Black Monday NFL coverage and a major wrestling anniversary, wasn't a growth strategy. It was a survival maneuver, designed to meet broadcast commitments, tick boxes, and air games while quietly hoping the ratings didn't attract too much scrutiny. Viewed in context, a clear pattern emerges. Unrivaled positioned itself as the premier off-season destination, yet chose a format the sport's biggest stars aren't interested in playing. It raised massive investment based on optimistic projections that now appear fragile, and it created an intimate arena experience it cannot consistently fill. These aren't random missteps. They reflect a deeper misreading of the market. Women's basketball players want to play the game in its full form, and fans want to see the stars they follow during the WNBA season competing in the game they know and love. Right now, Unrivaled has neither the format nor the star power to sustain viewership, forcing uncomfortable conversations at the sport's highest levels, discussions that go far beyond marketing adjustments or schedule tweaks. The key question now is what happens next. Will WNBA executives respond to Unrivaled's overtures and integrate the league as a sanctioned off-season option? Will Project be launched successfully, rendering Unrivaled irrelevant almost instantly? Or can Unrivaled survive independently as a 3-on-3 league despite losing the battle for star power? The coming months will reveal the answers. Watch how the WNBA acts behind closed doors, observe where players commit their futures, and see whether Unrivaled reaches a third season without a major structural overhaul. With empty seats, missing stars, a looming 5-on-5 competitor, and leadership openly admitting that nothing is off the table, Unrivaled isn't